Hey, everybody, welcome back to Rapture Radio and WCNI in New London, Connecticut. And I am joined via Zoom by the one and only, the legendary Michael Monroe. Michael, how are you, man?
I'm doing good. How are you doing yourself?
I'm great. I'm great.
Cool.
Hey, we'll talk about the record really quickly in a little bit. The record, I Live Too Fast to Die Young, out now on Silver Lining Records. We'll talk about that in a little bit, but I wanted to ask you real quick. You know, you and the band Hanoi Rocks have been so influential to so many big bands, you know, the Guns N' Roses, the Motley Crues of the world. I'm curious, what influenced you? You know, what got you started on your musical journey?
Oh, lots of bands of lots of different genres. Well, starting with Little Richard, from Little Richard to Rolling Stones to the Ramones. But also, I like I grew up on classical music. Then I got into rock and roll when I saw Black Sabbath on TV when I was 8, live in Paris, 1970. Then I got into Alice Cooper, and I discovered, and rock and roll, Little Richard and all that.
Yeah.
Loved funk music, reggae music, Peter Tosh, Dennis Brown, Bob Marley, of course, and funk music. There's this great psychedelic funk band called The Undisputed Truth in the early 70s. They were produced by Norman Whitfield, who produced the Temptations in their psychedelic era. That's one of my absolute favorites today, even. They had a wild image too. They had like this platinum blonde afros, and they were painted the platform boots and spacesuits. And they had an album called Higher Than High. And I saw the cover. I was like, I gotta get this. And it was the coolest funk. Of course, Little Richard, Chuck Berry, Eddie Cochran, all the, 50s rock and roll. In the 60s, the Janis Joplin, there's great bands, a lot of great bands, Jimi Hendrix and all that. Martha Hoople, Faces, the Slade. Slade was the first band I saw live when I was a kid.
Okay.
Of course, in Finland, it was like 1972. I was about 9. And then Susie Quattro, what was that? A lot of stuff was happening at the time. It was like sort of, the Faces were great. And Martha Hoople, Ian Hunter, the Heavy Metal Kids, with Gary Holton, the singer. That was before the term heavy metal even existed.
Yeah.
I liked Zeppelin, Deep Purple, AC/DC with Bon Scott, the original AC/DC. That was absolutely some of my favorites, and all kinds of different genres. We were influenced by everything, and the dressing. We had a bit of the Teddy Boys. We had the straight jackets and the what do you call the creepers, the shoes, and a lot of influence from all kinds of different areas. So we made our own thing, and that was one of the coolest things about Hanoi was we defied all categories. Categorized. We played anything from punk to calypso. So,
right.
So and then they tried to call us heavy metal, they called us punk, and then they started calling us glam rock, and we never thought of ourselves as being anything other than a rock band. We were just rock and roll band, hard rock band, like Alice Cooper, Aerosmith, Stones, all the best bands. AC/DC, ZZ Top, Motorhead, and rock and roll, bands. Categories, all these genres are unnecessary to me. I think everyone should just do their own thing, and the more of your own personality you have, the stronger your thing is. So, but people started calling us glam, and I never claimed to be glam. I would say there's nothing glamorous about being in the rock business.
Right.
Still love it.
Yeah, and it's obvious too. This record, I Live Too Fast to Die Young. First of all, congratulations. It's a great record.
Thank you.
It's phenomenal from beginning to the end. Murder the Summer of Love starts right out, finishes up with Dearly Departed. I wanted to ask you, was this like I don't want to call it maybe a pandemic record, but Was it a record in the sense that you had to, trade MP3s, emails, Zoom sessions, things like that, do things over the internet? Or were you able to get together with the guys and record this?
Well, we were not able to get together with the guys for a while because everybody lives abroad. I live in Finland and Sammy does, but the rest of the guys, Steve Conte lives in, the other guitar player lives in New York, and Rich Jones, the other guitar player, lives in Toronto, and drummer Carl Rockfist lives in Spain now. So we were not able to get together for a couple of years, or a year and a half. Last August, we got together to record some demos. We had about 34 songs. We've been sending songs.
Wow. Yeah.
Yeah. And then we recorded about 18, 19 in last August. And then we went into the studio in November, beginning of November. By that time, I was down to about 15, 14. And I always try to keep it to the 10, 11, 12, 13 at the most. So
Yeah.
I'm happy. After we've finished recording, I decided on this track listing, and it really fell into place. And it turned out to be a great entirety, as you just said.
Yeah.
It's a lot of dynamics and variety, and really a great beginning and end. It's just fell into place, and it kind of came together pretty easily at that point. And it was a clear sign, especially when I noticed that the first song was called "Murder, the Summer of Love." Second to that was called "I Live Too Fast to Die Young," and the last song, "Dearly Departed," always references to death, but not in a negative way. In a way of it was just a sign to me that this is the right track listing. And of course, "Murder, the Summer of Love" is not about murdering somebody; it's about killing an idea. And "Live Too Fast to Die Young," reinventing an old cliche, and then "Dearly Departed." "Dearly Departed," actually, that lyric I had written after my late wife passed away in 2001. That's an old one.
Yeah.
I never recorded it because I figured it was a bit too sad and personal. Then last summer, I started thinking, it might be a good time for it to be recorded, and it was. And I kind of rearranged the original idea. I mean, the original demo I had done back then, I had drums and everything, but then I got rid of the bridge I had in the song and just kept it down to the verse and the chorus, and I thought it was better that way. I sent that idea to the rest of the guys, and Sammy had it was his idea to do it the way it's on the record, that without drums and everything is very kind of haunting atmosphere. And he also knew my late wife, and we had many a nights in New York. We would be staying up and having great conversations and looking at all this, about culture and books and listen to records. And so it really captured that kind of vibe. And it's about losing someone near and dear and having to readjust your life to that situation. And sure, most of us go through that before too long.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, but
Right.
yeah. And after I heard Sammy's approach in the toward the music, and I was like, wow, this is the last song of the album, clearly.
Yeah.
So yeah, it turned out great. So really makes a perfect entirety. I think this a special record. It is not that the other ones have been great too, but this has a really special vibe about it. And I don't know if it's because of the pandemic or not, but we're not singing about the pandemic, except for Pagan Prayer has that one couple of lines that saying your neighbors get no vaccinations, believe the earth is flat, you get an vacation if you believe in that. So that's about the only reference to the pandemic in the whole album. It's fine because so many people are already sick of the whole subject, but
Yeah.
unfortunately, it still goes on, and who knows what the next variant will be.
Well, let's hope that this whole thing is over, man. Because we're over here in the States, we're sick of it for sure. I can imagine, over in Europe the same.
Yeah.
Yeah. Talking about the title track of the record, "I Live Too Fast to Die Young," you have Slash playing on that particular track with a solo. I know you're good friends with him, but just talk about that a little bit, getting him on the record.
Oh yeah. Well, I just realized that he hasn't played on. I mean, he's a very dear friend, and he didn't we haven't had him on the last 4 albums. He hasn't played on any of them. And I thought this would be a perfect one for him to play on the title track. You know, those kind of we were already well into. We had done the recording and all as close to the end of the recording. I mean, of the mixing and. Getting into mixing, and I sent the song to him. I just said, "Would you like to play a solo on this song? It's going to be a title track of my new album." And just he loved it. He loved the song. He thought it was super catchy. But he said he was really busy doing promotion because he had an album coming out and he was doing a lot of press and stuff. So when do you need it by? I said, well, you know,
yesterday, right?
Yeah,
right.
So sweet. He, the next day his engineer asked for the files, and we sent him the file. The next day we had the song. So,
nice.
I mean, that's solo. Yeah, that was great. Really fantastic. He, within 2 days of when I asked him, we had the solo. So, and a great solo too. I love it.
Yeah. And it seems like, obviously, if he did it in a day or two, it doesn't sound like it was something that he really thought about. Really, just do 1 or 2 takes, and there it is. And I feel like that's the way to go with rock and roll. Spontaneous. Just do it.
Yeah, exactly. Spontaneous and off the cuff, and just not putting every note in a perfectly in place. And now it's a great statement in itself. Just off the cuff, very loose and live. The human touch, and that's what we need. That's the way it's supposed to be in rock. And I must say, Steve and Rich are great players too, and there's some great solos on this album all the way through. And but we're keeping it live and fresh and not too produced, overproduced. It's got a nice looseness about it, and it's what rock and roll should be.
Yeah, absolutely. I wanted to talk to you about. I'm assuming that you've heard about Peacemaker by now.
Yeah.
Talk to us about that a little bit for the audience here. Peacemaker, the show on HBO, for anybody who doesn't know, who's listening.
It was great to get
the band Hanoi Rocks mentioned in the show. Talk about that a little bit.
Yeah, I was really surprised. I mean, I got all these messages from people. Oh, have you seen this? The clip from the, and I don't have HBO, so I hadn't seen the series before then, and it's really cool. And I was tagged James Gunn, the director.
Oh yeah,
he was he tagged me, put on an Instagram post to had me tagged where it was that scene where they're talking about with the 11th Street Kids and they so I thanked him, and he said that he was like, oh, this is the biggest fan moment ever, that he's been a fan for years, and he loves the band and loves my work too, and so we exchanged contact information. So we've been phone numbers and emails, and I actually sent him the "Can't Stop Falling Apart" song to ask if he does music videos, and he said, well, he doesn't do them as of yet, but he loved the song, so I said, well, I'll send you the whole album, and he loved the whole album too.
Yeah.
And we've been in touch since then, and so he's a cool guy, and it's great to have this kind of recognition, in the coolest possible way for Hanoi. And then talking about how Hanoi is only the coolest band of all, whatever, ever. And
right.
It's really cool, really nice to have this kind of recognition. There's only one correction I would make: we did not wear spandex.
Oh,
those are the copycat bands.
Right, yeah.
Vinyl, PVC, whatever, anything, but spandex we never wore. But other than that, it's perfect. It's great. It's really nice recognition.
Yeah, it only took 40 years, right?
Yeah. Speaking of 40 years, There's also the album Oriental Beat, the second Hanoi album, which has a lot of great songs, and it would have been a great record, but the producer mixed it without us, an incredibly terrible mix of the album that was the one that came out 40 years ago. And we heard it. I mean, we had some rough mixes, and it was recorded okay, and it sounded all right to us, and so we weren't worried. But then we heard it when it was already printed on. It was pressed onto vinyl. Our manager brought a turntable to a hotel room and played it to us, and we're like, sounds kind of hollow and empty, but I guess there's nothing we can do now. If I know what I know now, of course, we would have gone back and said, scrap it and do it again, mix it again. And then we wanted to remix it. And when Guns N' Roses released our European catalog on their Uzi Suicide label in 1991, I think it was 91 or 92. Yeah, we wanted to remix the Oriental Beat album, and then we were told by the Finnish label, the head of the label in Finland said that he had sent the original multi-track tapes to somebody in Germany to remix, and then they were lost. That they were lost, and we're like, oh my god! So we can't even mix that anymore. We went to remix. So we thought all these years we thought that the tapes were lost, but then I got a tip from a guy who had been at the Universal Music warehouse. Universal owns all the Hanoi material. It's come back to them. So I called the head of the label and said, Universal, the boss of the Universal Music, and asked him if somebody could take a photo of these tapes, and if it would say at Vision Studios London, that would be the Oriental Beat tapes, and they were. So that was a couple of years ago now. So we remixed the album, and it's coming out next November this year.
Oh, nice. Very good.
Finally getting the sound that it deserves. I'm sure people have grown up to the record and they like the original and all that, but it's really a huge difference. I mean, I'm sure when people hear this version, they'll know what we mean, because the original one is really, the worst possible way it was screwed up. So 40 years later, I mean, this is the longest and slowest project I've ever done. I reckon. Finally, now it has to sound.
Yeah, right.
So that's a cool thing.
Nice. You had mentioned the single "Can't Stop Falling Apart" and the music video. When I watched that video, you guys are clearly having so much fun. In the video, and everybody's playing different instruments and running around. Talk about that video for a little bit, man, because you guys are obviously having a blast.
Yeah, well, that was the day after we had done our first show, because we weren't able to play live for over 2 years, and and this was in last April. We had just the night before we had done our first show for over 2 years. So we were really happy and having a blast doing the video. And we just improvised when somebody had an idea. Well, let's change the instruments, and everyone except me play different instruments, in the band. And that's what we did. And we had the Joel Korhonen and Ville Juurikkala was the directors, and we've worked with Ville before, and he's really great. So it was a fun day. However, 2 days after that, Sammy and Steve had COVID, so we had 4 more gigs in Finland. We had to cancel 3 of them. Actually, we had 5, so 3 had to be canceled. So we did one more show in Helsinki, and one after that. But the Helsinki show, that was phenomenal and really great. But yeah, we were very happy during the filming of the video, because we had just gotten together, got to play a show for the first time live. We're like, yeah. And we started filming the next video too, at the Everybody's Nobody video. We filmed the scene in the elevator that same day. And then when we were playing at the Tavastia Club in Helsinki a week later, that was a couple of weeks later, then we finished that video. We filmed around the club,
Yeah.
And Everybody's Nobody is also one of my favorites of the record. One of my favorite songs in there. And the label thought that was a single too. So we're very happy to be able to play again. Now we just starting early in June, we played in Europe. We did the Rock Hard Festival in Germany and opened for Alice Cooper on the 7 shows. We opened for Alice Cooper, which is a brilliant time. There's a great shows and great combination. And Alice is a big hero, of course.
Yeah.
I'd say he is the undisputed king of rock and roll. Since Little Richard is gone, Alice Cooper must be the king of rock and roll today.
Okay.
He's,
no arguments here, man.
yeah, because he's been sticking to his guns and doing his thing all these years, and he's better than ever. And I mean, he's 70. He said, "Michael, you're only 60. I'm 74, and I'm still having the best time ever." And yes, he's always great. And I mean, he could have retired 30 years ago if he wanted to, but he loves doing it, and he's doing it better than ever. So as long as we doing it good, we keep doing this, and thank God for him. Those are great shows, and having a great time playing again with the band, playing live. It's fantastic.
Yeah, and you did some shows with Guns N' Roses too, right?
Yeah, we did. We opened for them in London, at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium. Yeah, in London.
Okay, all right.
That was fantastic too. First time, except for the first day, they had some problem with. I guess they weren't sure if the show was going to be on, so the doors were closed until till about 5:15, and they were supposed to open at 3:30, and our slot was like 4:30, so we missed the first night. The second night we played, and we played harder than we made up for it. Did a great show, and now it was great to open for those guys too.
Right.
The show was great too. I thought they were really good.
I'm going to ask, and I'm sure I know the answer. Any shot of you coming over to the States and playing some shows? I get calls from people all the time, bands from Europe, England, Japan, when are they going to come over? Yeah. And, I know it's rock and roll, but it's still a business. And it costs money to come over. Everything's more expensive now, fuel, the cost of flights, renting a bus. It's still got to be profitable too. And to go out and play a club in, we're in Connecticut, so a club in New York or Boston, probably not economically feasible, right?
No, that's the problem. We did a couple of tours and, club tours, and we just ended up losing a lot of money, and you play to a couple of hundred people a night. It's not going to get you anywhere. It's going nowhere slow, really. So the only way to really tour the States would be to get on a big stadium tour with some big acts to be noticed, And that's what I'm hoping for. So
Guns N' Roses, man. Talk to Axl.
Great. That would be great. But it's, hopefully something like that would happen. Yeah, that would be a fantastic tour. So otherwise it wouldn't make sense. But we're doing the Monsters of Rock cruise we were supposed to do this year, and I mean that we're supposed to do in February, and then because of COVID we had to postpone. So I think that's happening next year too.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
I'll play there next year. So that's at least one gig. There's 2 gigs, I think, during the whole cruise. I think you do 2 shows.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Excellent.
Something,
That's something for somebody to look forward to, I'm sure, because I think that leads out of Florida, I think.
Yeah. It's Florida, and it goes to the Bahamas, I think. Stops there, and then it comes back, and you play a show there and play one on the way back or something like that.
Yeah.
It would have been great this year they had Alice Cooper headlining, so it would have been really nice. But I don't know what's happening next year, but we're supposed to play it next year, no matter what.
Okay, excellent. Michael Monroe, the record is called I Live Too Fast to Die Young. It's out now on Silver Lining Records. Michael, thank you so much for taking a couple of minutes out of your day to talk to us here about the
Thank you.
great record. It's a fantastic record, everybody. Go out and stream it on Spotify, Apple Music, wherever. Go buy it, go online. It's a phenomenal record. And Michael Monroe, I mean, to me, you're a legend. So, I can't talk enough about you, man. So thank you so much.
Thank you. I really appreciate all your support, and thanks for having me on the show. And thanks to all the listeners too. And yeah, get the record. It's worth it.
Michael Monroe, please take care of yourself, man. Be good. And hopefully we catch up down the line sometime.
Yes, I hope so. I hope I can get to America too.
Yeah, that would be great. All right, Michael, please take care. Talk to you later.
Talk to you later.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye now.